Savage Nation. We pray for the Queen. We pray for the King. We pray for the United Kingdom because there's no freedom anymore. God save the Queen. I believe that you know what happened if you are at all internet savvy and you go to the internet on a regular basis. You know what shock came today to Michael Savage after well over a 1 year of struggle, legal struggle, and I want to thank the thousands of you who have signed the petition to get my name off the ban list in England. 85,000 of you have bothered to do that. And for the tens of thousands of you who contributed to the legal fund, I'm sorry to tell you that the new so-called conservative government has said, drop dead to Michael Savage and, frankly, to all of the listeners of this show. Now, I told you that I feared this day was coming. I told you that when the so-called conservatives took over in England, that it probably would mean that nothing would change. Today, I was proven right. Today, Michael Savage, was told by new Conservative Party-led government of Prime Minister David Cameron that it will continue the ban on my entry into the United Kingdom. Apparently, there's been nothing more than a change of window figures in England. Okay, nothing has changed. Now, all governments are essentially amoral. I had hopes, but did not expect this new UK government to restore sanity to Britain. They're still pandering to the Muslim masses. To continue to martyr me by including me in a list of known murderers and terrorists is bad enough. But for the United States and Western media, which considered itself progressive, to continue to ignore this outrage against freedom of speech is indicative that the media and government are one and the same. Now, this includes the so-called conservatives. Has freedom of the press, I ask, become greedom of the press? Michael Savage banned by new UK conservative government. Let this be a lesson to anyone who thinks that if the Republicans win back the House this November, there will be any real change. Let this serve as a reminder that the Republicans will continue most of the same destructive policies that Obama has started because he was only continuing what Bush had started. Okay? And let this serve as a warning to any member of the media, especially the conservative media, who thinks that their freedom of speech will flourish under a Republican Congress or Republican administration. The silence of big conservative media outlets has been deafening. Did you hear what I just said? Matt Drudge posted it. WorldNet Daily posted it. Jennifer Harper of the Washington Times posted it, and that's the end of it. So the next time you hear anyone call themselves a conservative, why don't you ask them why they don't cover this story, which is really a big story, incidentally, a major story, because it may have started in England. The banning of Michael Savage may have started with me, but this will come to America unless they are understanding that their freedom is at risk as well, and they may be the next target. Freedom of speech itself will die unless the so-called conservative media wakes up and realizes that its own life is at stake in this case. They can ignore Michael Savage for their own competitive reasons, but doing so will come at a very high cost. Michael Savage still on Britain's least wanted list. Talk radio host Michael Savage has waged a vigorous fight against the British government, hoping to have his name removed from a list of 16 undesirables, banned from the country on May 5, 2009 by then British Home Secretary Jackie Smith. I want to remind you that that list included actual murderers, people who had bashed in the heads of Jewish children with a rifle butt in Hamas. They were banned. But not, apparently, it didn't apply to the British themselves. Now, what do I say the British themselves? Do you remember not a few weeks ago the Islamic extremists in England who have threatened and demonstrated against the British troops returning from war? Do you remember that? You remember the British Muslims who gave a vile reputation to all other responsible British Muslims? They were not banned, but Mr. Savage has been banned anyway. One listener in England has already said Mr. Savage should visit Ireland instead. It's much nicer anyway. Again, I want to say to all of you who have signed the petition to get my name off that list, 85,000 people, I want you to think about that. Do you know of any organization that has gotten a genuine 85,000 names like I have? Do you know of any organization who could get 85,000 names, and yet only one congressman has come to my aid? Think about it. Only one congressman has written on my behalf. That's John Culberson of Texas. This is not a joke, ladies and gentlemen. What I want to do for you is this. I want you to go back in time with me. I want you to hear some of the original interviews by the BBC and CNN and some of the other amazing interviews we did when this first happened, because I can guarantee you it is going to happen again. Let us begin with clip number 2 with the BBC talking about being banned from the UK.
I was shocked, angered. How in the world could I be linked with known murderers, people who have been put in prison for years for killing people, openly, when I am simply speaking, talking for 15 years on the radio, writing best-selling books? It was shocking to believe this is coming out of England, a country I've always loved and admired, specifically for its freedoms.
Of course, the Home Secretary Jackie Smith has said that the reason you were banned is because the things that you say foment hatred, engaging people in spreading hatred as well. What do you say to the reasons behind the ban?
Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. There are millions of people who agree with me, not only in America but around the world. Now, you can take sound bites from an individual and turn them into anything you want. But if you actually listen to what I said about these things, it might be a different individual that you're hearing. I don't know which show Jackie heard or when she heard it, but I'm not broadcast in England. So obviously she was given some selected sound bites by individuals who detest my points of view and are trying to skewer me. That's not freedom of speech, nor is that fair. The issue is that in America, the First Amendment was written to protect offensive speech. We don't need a First Amendment to protect polite speech, do we? I mean, everyone engages in polite speech. What do we need protections for? It's speech which provokes thought that is considered offensive and hateful by those who disagree with you, isn't it? And so, therefore, it's only speech we're talking about, not the acts of murderers. And to lump me in with murderers is defaming me. It's libeling me.
The American talk show host, Michael Savage, has been reaffirmed to have been banned entry into the United Kingdom by the new Conservative administration. I realize many of you don't even understand the ramifications of such a situation. And many of you say, well, big deal, why do you want to go there anyway? That is not the issue. My freedom of movement has been curtailed by a nation that once had Winston Churchill as the leader. My freedom of association, my freedom of speech has been banned by the nation that gave the world the Magna Carta and so many other elements of the freedoms that we enjoy. And yet you see a government now that calls itself conservative, that says it would repudiate the things done by the socialist government of Gordon Brown, doing exactly the same thing. Do you understand this or not? Do you want to talk about this or not? Because I do. Conservative Party in England demands repudiation of violent statements. Did you hear this? Now, I don't know what violent statements they mean, because every one of those statements was taken out of context by the Soros-funded Media Matters and sent to their cohorts in England. And moreover, I want to ask you something. They have Muslims in England who spit at their own troops 2 weeks ago and threatened their own troops, calling them murderers 2 weeks ago. Is that not going to provoke inter-community violence? I didn't see them kick those Muslims out of England, did you? Moreover, some mass murderers from Cuba have been invited to the United Kingdom. Mass murderers from Cuba, people who have imprisoned fellow revolutionaries for well over 25 or 30 years, have been invited to England. So the world is upside down, ladies and gentlemen, absolutely upside down. If you want to help in some way, you don't want to hear this, I can understand that. After all, another man's woes are not your problem. But the fact of the matter is, if you want to just sign the petition, we have 85,000 names thus far. Maybe when we make it to 1 million names, someone will get the message here in America. Come the election time, congressmen and senators in the U.S., maybe you'll come to understand that I may just use the influence I have on this show to make sure you're damn never elected again, even though you have an R next to your name. I will make sure you're never elected again. Unless you go to bat for me, I'll make sure you're not elected again. How's that? Does that work for you? I've had one congressman act on my behalf, one only. Now, you want to hear the real irony here? We appealed to Hillary Clinton to go to bat for me as an American citizen. You say, well, why should she? She's a liberal Democrat. Precisely. Precisely because she and the others pose as progressives who believe in liberalism and believe in freedom. After all, what does the word liberal mean? It means free. Well, if you're a liberal and you believe in freedom, you should say, you know what, even though I find his speech repugnant, even though I disagree with everything he has said or may have said, he still has the right to say it, and we want you to take his name off the list. But Hillary Clinton did not do that. So don't expect anything out of liberals, by the way, any more than you'd expect out of the Bush conservatives, or out of Andrew Breitbart, or Rush Limbaugh or Sean Hannity or Bill O'Reilly. Expect nothing but Republican hackdom. I'll be right back.
Savvy.